This is the third video for the kidney, and we left off at the collecting duct. So at the end of this point, once we have taken what we've needed, and this is kind of the point, of no return. Let me try to create a tube here. Now at this point, we can be considered urine, or we have drops of urine being produced. And if you remember, this was part of the renal pyramid. Now we're at the base of the renal pyramid. Urine's going to travel down in this direction. It's going to hit the minor calyx first, minor calyx. Then it's going to hit the major calyx. This is all just urine flowing in, major calyx. After that, it's going to hit the pelvis, the renal pelvis. After that, it's going to hit that tube, the ureter. And then finally, it's going to reach the urinary bladder. But this is how and where urine is produced. Okay, now let's take a look at what we'll see under a microscope. I'm going to start with the edge of a nephron. Sorry, edge of a piece of kidney. So again, you may or may not see, random bits of tissue on the outside like so. This would be the renal capsule again, under low power, renal capsule. Okay, but now, how do I tell when I go from the cortex region? How do I know? And then I start the medulla region. And if you remember, there was only one structure that was only in the cortex, not the medulla. And this structure is the glomerulus. But to be more specific, what we have in the cortex is something called the renal corpuscle, which includes the glomerulus, among other things. So it includes the glomerulus, it includes Bowman's capsule, it also includes Bowman's space, which is just a distance from the glomerulus to the Bowman's capsule. Bowman's space. So you will see them only in the cortex region, these renal corpuscles. Kind of like, I guess, pepperoni only at the top near the crust of your pizza. So here are my renal corpuscles. So renal corpuscle. Remember, it consists of those three pieces down here. Once you stop seeing those renal corpuscles, you are no longer in the cortex, but you have dipped down into the medulla. So no pepperoni slices, you're not in the cortex. Now in the medulla, there were two structures that are only found in the medulla. This would be the collecting duct, and also you might see slits of the loop of Henle. So based on how this was cut, you will see, slices of a tube. So here could be a tube slice, here could be a tube slice, there could be a tube slice, so on and so forth. This will be, slice of a tube, and the tubes are down here, collecting duct or loop of Henle. Slice of tube. Okay. We're going to have urine production going down this way, this way, this way, this way, all the way down to the tip. There is a little empty region, no tissue here. This is an actual space. So this is space. And then we will have our minor calyx, ready to capture this filtrate. So this would be the minor calyx. Minor and then major calyx, and then again it's going to go to the pelvis, the renal pelvis. It's going to go to the ureter again, and then lastly it's going to go to the urinary bladder for storage. But this is tissue you can see under low power. Okay, and here's just an image of that. Notice once you stop seeing these circles, you are no longer in the cortex. But this is all cortical tissue up here. So notice here there are no renal corpuscles. And you can start to see your tube slits right there. There's a slit right there. There's a large slit right there. Okay, now for cortex under high power. And we're specifically going to look at a renal corpuscle. This is going to be the outline for your Bowman's capsule. It consists of a 1 cell layer thick structure. So there are my cells. You know, like most cells, you can expect to find a nucleus. So there would be these purple dots. You can expect them to be the nucleus. So I have drawn Bowman's capsule, a slice of Bowman's capsule. And this tissue type, we call this simple. We call it simple squamous epithelium. Simple because it is only 1 layer thick. Squamous, which means flat, so these cells are pretty flattened up, and that's why we call it this cell type. Now inside Bowman's capsule, you will have, a couple of things. You'll have like a little mess of tissue in here. You do have the glomerulus. Remember, the glomerulus is a blood vessel. Now, this is the capillary, a blood vessel. Which is capillary, which is again is a type of a blood vessel. So we might expect to see red blood cells in this region, which is possible. So you might see red blood cells. So let's take a note of that. You might see red blood cells. You will also see the nucleus, the nuclei of the capillary cells. The cells that compose the capillaries, the epithelium, also has its nucleus. So we have red blood cells, and we also have nuclei from the capillaries. Lastly, however, I'll use a slightly different color. You will have the nuclei of a slice of Bowman's capsule on this. When this cut was made, part of Bowman's capsule remained on the glomerulus. So be careful here. We have part of Bowman's capsule on the glomerulus. So you'll have Bowman's capsule nuclei present. As for these two nuclei, you cannot differentiate them, or it is extremely difficult to differentiate. Cannot differentiate the nuclei. Okay, so next to the renal corpuscle, you will have other tubes. We mentioned a few types of tubes today. So these have a different cell type, make it a little bit easier to find. So this cell type, it's a bit squarish in shape, approximately squarish. And again, just like most cells, you will expect to find a nuclei. So we call this new cell type, to help us differentiate it, simple cuboidal epithelium. Oops, that looks messy. Epithelium. Simple because it refers to the fact that it's only 1 layer thick. Cuboidal because they are square-shaped in 2-dimension, but in reality 3-dimension as cubes. And this would be a proximal PCT, a proximal convoluted tubule. And there's a few differences between a distal kind, but you won't be responsible for that just be able to tell me that this is a convoluted tubule. And you can expect to see, a few of these guys, a few of them around the renal corpuscle. So let me draw that like so. Here would be another proximal convoluted tubule. And below is an image of that. And that's it for the kidney video.